Hello and welcome to Odds on Bundesliga Matchday 28 after the one of the biggest surprises of the season, I must say. Arminia Bielefeld in the cup final, in the Pokal final, beating Leverkusen in the semi-final, Ronan.
Yeah, it was. Well, it was a bit of a shock for Bayer Leverkusen, and Granit Xhaka was filmed arguing with some fans after the match. So things got a bit heated there. So I think we could be set for a passionate weekend of football in the Bundesliga after that. Great to see Arminia Bielefeld in the cup final. They are only the third division side to go all the way to the final. None of them have won before, but maybe this time go be different. Let's hope.
Well, we thought the Leverkusen's goal until the end of the season was winning the Pokal. It's not the case anymore, but perhaps they still have a chance to fight for the Bundesliga. Let's analyze everything with Ronan Murphy, with 𝐬𝐵𝐿𝐴, for instance, and with you. Guys, of course, subscribe to our channel, 35 subscribers we have now. Let's go on with the show. And we start with a really good game, Augsburg, Bayern Munich, because Bayern Munich are thinking in the Champions League against Inter playing on Tuesday, so that's why they are playing on Friday. They beat Pauli after the international break, 3-2, and it's not an easy place to go to Augsburg. This is a derby, if I'm not mistaken, Ronan. And Augsburg are doing a great season so far, and they can put things difficult to Bayern Munich.
Yeah, this is a Bavarian derby. Obviously, Augsburg have been quite good of late. They've been kind of really good at the back. Finn Dahmen, we mentioned last week, he had gone 10 hours without conceding a goal. He got up to 11 hours before conceding a goal in the Bundesliga before Andre Kramaric scored from the penalty to get a point for Hoffenheim last week. So, yeah, this Augsburg team are on a good run of form, and Bayern Munich obviously will have one eye on the Champions League match that you mentioned, but this could be a chance for maybe Augsburg to keep it close, a close game, and Bayern Munich will be without a number of key defenders because we had yet another defensive injury for the rest of the season. We obviously had Alphonso Davies after signing his new contract. He was ruled out for a long time. 𝗵𝗻𝐿, he's out for a long time, and now 𝐻𝐿𝐴 he's out for the rest of the season. So yeah, he might be back in time for the Club World Cup, but the Club World Cup is a bit of an afterthought at the moment, and Bayern obviously have to focus on the league, so that gives Augsburg a bit of a chance because Bayern Munich, who are they going to start in defence? Eric Dyer, the veteran Englishman, will he be called into actions? But Bayern, will they start Harry Kane up front? Will they rotate? Will they rest players? Will this be a chance for Thomas Muller to maybe get a start? Because all the signs are looking like he won't be given a new contract at the end of the season. So this is going to be his last season at Bayern Munich. Will this be a chance for him to start? If Harry Kane starts, he's always a good option to get a goal. He has scored against all 19 opponents in the Bundesliga now he's faced after scoring against St. Pauli last weekend. But against Augsburg, his record is tremendous. He's played 3 games. He scored 2 goals in the first one, 1 goal in the second one, 3 goals in the third one. So he has scored 6 times against Augsburg. So Harry Kane, anytime goal scorer, is always a good option in the Bundesliga. Definitely a good option against Augsburg, but that depends on whether he starts. That's 2 exactly for Harry Kane to get anytime goal scorer. So a lot depends on when he starts. So keep an eye on the lineup on Friday evening. Usually comes out an hour before kick-off. So that'll be it'll be 6:30 English time and 7:30 European time. And just one to keep an eye out for. And this one, I think it's going to be a close game, like 𝐿𝐴 in our comments, probably 1-2 to Bayern. I think it could even be a bit less. So, yeah, total goals under 2.75 is another option I like here at 188 because, like I said, Bayern Munich have no defence. And Augsburg, their goalkeeper has been in fantastic form. They haven't lost in the league since January 12th. They're 11 games unbeaten. They've only conceded 4 league goals in 2025. So if Harry Kane is rested, so to rule out the anytime goal scorer option, I think this will be a good chance for Augsburg to pick up something or keep this game close. So I think it'll be a close game like our commenters. So I'm going for Augsburg Asian handicap plus 1.25 as my main tip.
Okay, close game, both teams to score according to 𝗀𝗀𝐻, 1-2, for instance, as you mentioned with 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲. I think there's been some controversy around Müller also during this week, Ronan.
Yeah, I think there's always going to be an issue whether he will be kept around or what's going to happen with him for the future. There's talk, obviously, he could move to MLS. There has been speculated. His English is excellent, so that wouldn't be a surprise. There talk that obviously Bayern Munich might want him to stay in a kind of coaching role and move to the boardroom, or we see that a lot in the Bundesliga. But I'm not sure Thomas Muller wants what Bayern Munich have planned for him at the moment, and as well as behind the scenes, 𝗪𝐿 𝐸𝐵, the kind of director of sport there, he seems to be under pressure at the moment, and there's talk that he could be replaced in the summer. That this could be another kind of summer of change in the boardroom and in the off the pitch for Bayern Munich, which doesn't seem a good sign for Bayern Munich off the pitch. But at least Vincent Kompany seems to be doing a good job for the moment.
Yeah, it's not easy to work in Bayern Munich. Well, next game, really good one, Freiburg, Borussia Dortmund, because Dortmund are also alive in the Champions League. Remember, they have Barcelona on Wednesday. They finally got a good result in the Bundesliga, beating Mainz 3-1, so still with options to qualify for Europe, and Freiburg have the same goal, actually, but it was a big surprise. See them losing to Union Berlin at home. If we check the away table, Dortmund are 16th in the table with only 3 wins. So it's very difficult to trust Dortmund with these odds in a difficult pitch, as is Freiburg.
Yeah, because obviously, like we talked in the first half of the season, Borussia Dortmund were a team that won every match at home and they just weren't able to do anything on the road, and that's kind of continuing a bit. But they've been very inconsistent since 𝐿𝐸𝐵 took over, and we hear reports kind of on a daily basis nearly coming out of Dortmund of issues with players and issues on the pitch, issues off the pitch. They have similar issues off the pitch. There's talk of Matthias Sammer, the Ballon d'Or winner and club legend. He could even be out in the back room this summer. So yeah, that's kind of another thing to kind of keep an eye on off the pitch. But yeah, on the pitch, there's talk that Waldemar Anton, the centre back, after the defeat to Bochum a couple of weeks ago, that he complained to the rest of the players that they weren't doing enough off the field, that they needed to stand up and kind of take responsibility, because after the 2-0 defeat to Bochum, none of the players actually spoke to the journalists after the match, and Anton said that that's something that they need to do, because otherwise the journalists are just going to write what they want and the players won't have any say in it. And the players were like, well, should they write what they want anyway? And he was saying, well, at least we can control the narrative a bit and stand up, and the fans will get behind them. So it seems to be that there's a different player kind of being talked about or written about every week of Borussia Dortmund. So the problems that they have seem to continue. But Niko Kovac, he found a solution last week. They had a big win, obviously, and Nico Schlotterbeck was taking corners, and he was the first player in Europe's top 5 leagues this season to have 2 assists. So first defender to have 2 assists from set pieces in the same game. So yeah, Nico Schlotterbeck, they had hoped that he might be Nico Schlotterbeck or Beckenbauer, but it seems that maybe he's more Nico Schlotterbeck than Beckenbauer. Yeah, so he unfortunately is suspended for this one, so you won't see any assists from him, although I did see some odds being given for him to provide more than a half an assist, but he will not be playing this one. He has 5 yellow cards, as does 𝗀𝐻𝐿𝐸. There's a big doubt or a big absence for Freiburg, their goalkeeper, Noah 𝗏𝗏𝗏. We talked about him last week, that he had also gone 9 hours without conceding a goal, but he's injured for a long time, a shoulder injury, so it looks like Florian Müller will be back in goal for them, and that's kind of a bit of a downgrade. Müller obviously has Bundesliga experience, but he's not as good as 𝗏𝗏𝗏 because he's kind of seen as the next big thing in German goalkeeping. So yeah, that'll be a loss for them. Dortmund against Freiburg, they tend to win. They've won the last 6 meetings. They've scored 3 or more goals in each of those last 6 meetings. They won 4-2 and 3-0 last season, won 4-0 earlier this season. And Freiburg, although they were kind of getting a lot of draws, They had 4 wins, they had 3 draws, and then 1 defeat. So now they're 4 games without a win. So it doesn't, 3 draws in a row, when you put it in that context, doesn't sound as impressive. I think Dortmund had a chance in this one because it's Dortmund. 𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿𝐿 seems to be kind of getting the players on board with the way he wants to play it. They looked very good last week in the win that they got. They seem to have to return to winning ways. So I think Dortmund win at 230 looks good value. I'm not going to say definitely bet on it, but I think this could be a one where there's it's hard to trust Dortmund in any game. I think there's value in it if you do believe that they can win. But I think this is going to be one like 𝐬𝐿𝐴 thinks. Total goals over 2.5 he's going for, but I'm going slightly higher. Total goals over 2.75 is exactly 2. I think that looks pretty good.
Okay, at the 𝐬𝐵2 of course, check the lineup since we have a Champions League the following week. And it's going to be very interesting. We will have the analysis of the Champions League quarterfinals, of course, in Oddspedia with Bayern Munich and Borussia Dortmund in a potential semi-final, by the way, of the Champions League, if both go ahead in the competition. Next game is Heidenheim Leverkusen. Tough week, as I said at the beginning, for Leverkusen, because I think we all took for granted that they were gonna play the Pokal final, but they lost to Arminia Bielefeld 2-1 despite taking the lead. And now, of course, they are super favorites to beat Heidenheim, although be careful with Heidenheim. They are still in the bottom 3, but it's only 1 defeat in the last 5 games for them, and they beat Wolfsburg and Kiel in the last 2 games.
Yeah, 3-1 win over Kiel and then a 1-0 win over Wolfsburg, climb up to 16th. So they're moving a bit closer to safety, and they're in the relegation playoff now rather than guaranteed relegation, which is a good step up. But Bayer Leverkusen is a whole different ball game, although we saw that in the cup on Tuesday night that maybe it's not. But yeah, I think Bayer Leverkusen will definitely be licking their wounds after being knocked out of the cup, because that's probably where they saw their best chance of any trophies this season. They're out of the Champions League. They are 6 points behind, and they could be 9 points behind by the time this match kicks off. And like you said, it's game week 28, so there's not that many games left in the Bundesliga. It's only 34 games in the season compared to 38 in England, for example. So they're running out of time to catch up with Bayern Munich, and these are matches that they must win if they're to keep any pressure on Bayern Munich. We'll see whether Victor Boniface starts. He didn't start in that cup game, but he started last weekend. He scored on his first start since February in that 3-win over Bochum. Xabi Alonso after the game said that he was playing at a good level again, and he can certainly play from the start again. So be interesting to see whether he starts in this one and whether he starts with Patrick Schick in a 2-man attack, because they tried that last weekend and it worked pretty well. So will he go back to that, because we didn't see that in the cup in midweek. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. They have been pretty good in the Bundesliga. They won 4-3 against Stuttgart. They won 3-1 over Bochum after being knocked out of the Champions League. So they seem to have got a bit of form back there. They don't have Champions League to play for, so they don't need to rotate. They don't have the cup to play for anymore, so they don't need to rotate. So from now on to the end of the season, Xabi Alonso can play his best side every single week in the Bundesliga, as long as they're fit, of course. So I think this is the one where Leverkusen can get some goals. They won 5-2 earlier this season. They're averaging 2.3 goals per game. So I think Bayer Leverkusen to win 147 is obviously a good bet, but there's not a lot of value there. So I think you're going to have to look a bit higher. So Leverkusen over 2.5 goals is what I'm going here, because I think they can score, and I think they will be determined to put this bad week behind them.
Well, Leverkusen to win the first half, Leverkusen to win, and both teams to score for Pukar, and also Penchev thinks we will see both teams to score in this game. Next one is RB Leipzig, Hoffenheim, 6th in the standings. Now Leipzig 3 points away from the top 4 since they lost to Gladbach, and Hoffenheim still in danger despite the good results. Lately, they drew with Augsburg. In the last game, it's only 1 defeat in the last 6 games, but they are 5 points away from the bottom 3.
Yeah, Hoffenheim are kind of in a Hoffenheim position at the moment. This is kind of what you expect from Hoffenheim, not necessarily what you expect from Leipzig, and it's not what the board expected either, or Jurgen Klopp at the top of Red Bull football. They made a change. They have a new head coach. We talked a lot about Marco Rose. Would he last till the end of the season? Klopp wanted to keep him, but results didn't go their way, so they pulled the trigger last week. And 𝐜𝐨𝐴 has come in, and he's a former Thomas Tuchel assistant coach. This is his first head coaching job, but it seems like it's only caretaker job till the end of the season, because Oliver Glasner, the Crystal Palace manager, has been linked with the job. Roger Schmidt, plenty of other people, even after Lowe has got the job. So we'll see how he does between now and the end of the season. He's demanding a 20% improvement in them. If he can get that, they should be safe enough to get the Champions League, but they need to score more goals. That's the problem here at the moment. And Hoffenheim, similar, that's their problem too. They're not scoring a lot of goals. They're still struggling to score. They haven't scored more than one goal in any of their last 5 games. Hoffenheim, I think, even with Lowe coming in, I think Leipzig, we've seen recently, they've been a team that have struggled at times. So Hoffenheim double chance could be an option. I see Hoffenheim on the screen 6. It's a bit rich for me. Hoffenheim double chance also might be a bit rich, 259. But you can't trust Leipzig at the moment. We'll have to see how they perform under Lowe. But the one thing he'll have to do for them is get them scoring goals too. They've only scored over 1 goal in 1 of their last 5 games in all competitions, before obviously the match on the cup final that we have on Wednesday night. We're recording Wednesday morning, so we'll see how that goes. These teams don't tend to score a lot of goals. RB Leipzig are only averaging 1.5 goals a game this season. Hoffenheim even worse, 1.2. So I think this could be a low scoring game. Total goals under 3 at 2.04.
Hoffenheim double chance for Pukar. Leipzig to win and under 3.5 goals for 𝐬𝐵𝐺𝐸. So it's the opposite. It's a tricky game because, Leipzig is a hit and miss. More miss than hit this season, despite the great attacking line, especially that they have. But it's been a poor season for them. Next game is Mainz Kiel. Here we have Mainz in the top 4, still in Champions League spots, despite the defeat against Dortmund, and Kiel with no options to stay in the Bundesliga. I think Bochum and Heidenheim will fight until the end, but Kiel is almost mission impossible, 5 points away from Heidenheim. Goodbye and back to the Bundesliga too.
They keep making Mission Impossible films. We must be up to 10 now, so maybe Kiel can do the same. They can do a Tom Cruise on it and keep surviving again and again and again. But I don't think it's going to happen. Yeah, Aufwiedersehen, indeed. I think they're going to be gone. And they had another disappointing result last weekend. And Thomas Dana was in goal. He conceded 3 goals against Bremen, and he's been told he will stay in goal, that they need something different, and that's what he apparently offers. But conceding 3 isn't the best way to kind of have an audition for yourself. But he's going to stay in goal, and I think that might help Mainz, that they have this inexperienced goalkeeper playing against them, and it'll give them a good chance. Mainz won 3-0 in this fixture in November, and Mainz have been scoring a lot of goals themselves recently. They've scored in their last 6 games. They were 6 games unbeaten before the 3-1 defeat to Dortmund last weekend. So they are a team that's in pretty good form. They should have no problems beating Kiel. Kiel have no wins in 3 games. The last 2 games were a 3-1 loss to Heidenheim, 3-0 loss to Bremen, so conceding lots of goals. Mainz tend to score goals in their games, like I said, and they've scored 2 or more goals in 5 of their last 6 games. Mainz over 2 goals could be a good option here at 185. That goes a bit like what Konstantinos is saying in the comments. He's saying Mainz in over 1.5 goals, and I'm going to go for something similar as my main tip too. Mainz Asian handicap -1 is 178. I really like to look it up.
Okay, Holstein will score. I'm sure 𝐵𝐻 Mainz to win and over 1.5 goals. And as you said, also Konstantinos is going for the same. Let's go to the next game. Another team involved in the relegation battle. Bochum playing at home against Stuttgart. Bochum is still alive, 2 points away from Heidenheim. And I hope this is the last time I pronounce this team in the show. And Stuttgart, Ronan, in a really bad run, and no goals, I would say, until the end of the season. Lost to Frankfurt is only 2 points in the last 6 games. Their Champions League campaign was not good, and their Bundesliga campaign has not been good.
Yeah, but they do have a big cup semi-final on Wednesday night, obviously, against RB Leipzig, and whoever wins that faces Arminia Bielefeld in the final. So that does look pretty appealing for whichever Bundesliga team. Obviously, Arminia Bielefeld had knocked out Bayer Leverkusen there. That's the fourth Bundesliga team they've knocked out in the cup this season. They just are steamrolling every Bundesliga team, but Stuttgart or Leipzig, whoever wins the cup game, will be confident that they can beat Bielefeld. Maybe it could be a step too far. Playing in the Olympiastadion in Berlin is a big ask for any team. Obviously, Bielefeld do have Bundesliga experience in the past themselves, so they have been there, but not necessarily this bunch of players. So Stuttgart, for the moment, they have to focus on that Leipzig game. But after that, what we're focused on is this match against Bochum, and you should be confident of every team should be confident of beating Bochum. Although we have seen Bochum beat Dortmund and beat Bayern Munich this year, they have got some decent enough results, but they are now in the kind of run of three back-to-back defeats. They've lost 3-1 in their last two games to Frankfurt and Leverkusen. Stuttgart, they need goals, like you said. Dennis Undav, he hasn't been really firing on all cylinders, and Fabian 𝗀𝗏𝗏, the director of sport, said as much before the match that he wasn't really doing enough to start. He wasn't putting himself in a good position to start, and he's been benched for the past two games. We'll see whether he starts in the cup, but also see whether he starts in the league. Stuttgart really need to start getting goals, because they have had a bad run of themselves at the moment. 6 games without a win, draws with Hoffenheim and Kiel, defeats to Wolfsburg, Bayern, Leverkusen and Frankfurt. Those are pretty difficult teams they have been playing. So they will be hoping that they can turn things around as the fixture list kind of changes a bit for them and they have some easier games on the horizon. So yeah, they've won 6 of the last 9 meetings with Bochum. They won 2-0 at home in November. So I think they can win here again. So Stuttgart win 222. When I looked last night, 220 on the screen. I think it looks pretty good for Stuttgart to win, because I know Stuttgart haven't been great, but Bochum are Bochum at the end of the day.
Yes, of course, Bochum are Bochum. We shouldn't trust them, but Pukar is going for double chance, and the both teams to score also looks like a good bet here, according to our audience for this game. Even exact score or correct score for Penchev, 1-1 for this game. And the next one is Werder Bremen Frankfurt. Werder Bremen mid-table beat Kiel 3-0 in the last away game at home. Lost to Gladbach in the last home game 4-2, and 3 consecutive defeats, playing as a local, as the home team, and Frankfurt third in the standings, targeting the Champions League spots, and also thinking about Tottenham in the Europa League. Great game, this one, Tottenham-Frankfurt.
Yeah, it should be a great game to look forward to. I was disappointed, obviously, that Tottenham beat AZ Alkmaar, because they have a former Tottenham striker and Ireland striker Troy Parrott up front, but he wasn't able to stop his old club from advancing in Europe. But Tottenham are a team that they will have their sights on that this season. I think they have a good chance of maybe winning some silverware, perhaps without Harry Kane in the team. This could be the time that Harry Kane and Tottenham both win some trophies maybe this season. But yeah, back to Frankfurt in the Bundesliga. I think this is a very appealing match to watch on Saturday evening. It should be a great game. Frankfurt, like you said, they're back up to third. They've had 2 wins in a row, so they're kind of showing that they can do stuff without 𝗲𝗏𝗏. They're not just a one-man team like we've seen in the past. And there was a report that came out this morning that if they do qualify for the Champions League, maybe we won't see as busy a summer of outgoings at Frankfurt as we were expecting. Hugo Larsson has obviously been linked with most of the Premier League. 𝐬𝐭𝐿𝐴 has been linked to Arsenal, Liverpool, Man United, half the Premier League probably at this stage. So yeah, if they do make the Champions League, they will hope to keep on to some of the big players. So that's kind of the goal for Frankfurt. Probably the goal for the players too, to either play in the Champions League with Frankfurt next season or play at a bigger club in the Premier League next season. So I think this looks like a match that Frankfurt will be looking for points in, but Werder Bremen have been pretty good. They have been pretty good at scoring too. Both teams to score yes has happened in 4 of Frankfurt's last 5 matches. Both teams to score yes has happened 70% of the time for Frankfurt this season, but also over half the time for Werder Bremen. So I do like both teams to score yes in this match, 150. But I suppose you have to look at elsewhere for some value. And if we look at this match in the past, the most common result is 1-1. Last season it was 2-2 in Bremen and 1-1 in Frankfurt. Earlier this season, 𝗵𝐵𝗀𝐻𝐿 scored the only goal as Frankfurt won. I'm not sure he's going to score 2 games in a row in the Bundesliga. It's been a while since he did that, so I'm going to take the draw because the odds look pretty good for a draw on this one.
Well, total goals over 3.5 for 𝗵𝐻𝐿, and also Penchev thinks we are going to see goals, Konstantinos as well. So hopefully we see a good game here. And for Sunday we have 2 games, Pauli Gladbach. Pauli only 3 points away now from the bottom 3, lost to Bayern, but in the last home game they beat Hoffenheim. Gladbach challenging for the Champions League spots after beating Leipzig or Bremen in the last 2 games.
Yeah, Gladbach have been in pretty good form of recently. We've seen it in the past. They can go through these spells and they can go through really inconsistent spells, but St. Pauli are back into the kind of form that we expected from them. They lost, obviously, but they battled to the end. They scored in stoppage time, but they're not going to pick up too many points against teams like Bayern Munich. And at home is probably where St. Pauli have really struggled this season. They've only scored 8 times at 13 home games in the Bundesliga. Gladbach, on the other hand, are the 7th best away team in the Bundesliga this season. They have 6 wins and 5 draws, or 6 wins and 5 defeats from the 13 games they played. I think 2 draws then as well, if my maths would serve me correct. So I like Gladbach to go to Hamburg and win this match. Pick up a win. That's 277, 280 even better. But St. Pauli, they haven't really been scoring a lot of goals at home, like I said. This one, I think, could be a low-scoring affair. Pauli are only averaging 0.8 goals per game. Both teams to score, yes, it's happened in only 31% of their games. Both teams to score, yes, it's happened in just 2 of Gladbach's last 5 games. So I think this is a good game for both teams to score. No, despite what 𝗵𝐻𝐿 is saying in the comments that St. Pauli will score. Both teams to score, no, it's 225.
Okay, St. Pauli will score, he's saying. And the last game, Ronan, Union Berlin, Wolfsburg. Union Berlin safe, we can say, after beating Freiburg. A big surprise, 7 points in the last 3 games in a good run. And Wolfsburg is kind of the opposite. No options to go to Europe almost, and lost the last 2 games.
Yeah, and the Ralf Hasenhüttl is coming under pressure. We're starting to see in Wolfsburg. It happened a bit before, and he kind of dug himself out of it, but now he's back in the hall. And managing director Peter Christensen was asked by Kicker after the defeat to Heidenheim last weekend kind of what the future would hold for, or was he under pressure? He wouldn't really answer. He kind of gave these usual kind of media trained answers that you would expect. And yeah, so Ralf Hasenhüttl, he mightn't be at Wolfsburg too long if he can turn things around and they get points in matches that they really should be winning, because Heidenheim is a match they should have been winning, and Union Berlin is a match you think they should be able to get points at. But recently, not so much. The last 2 games were both 1-0 home wins. So Union Berlin won 1-0 at home last February. Wolfsburg won 1-0 in November. Wolfsburg's last 2 games were both 1-0 defeats, and we had a correct score in the comments, so I'm going to give my own correct score in this one. The most common result in this one is actually 1-0 to Wolfsburg, but I'm going to go the other way around, and correct score 1-0 is 850 in this. I like to look at that. Union Berlin are obviously 3 games undefeated, wins over Freiburg and Frankfurt, like you said, and a home draw with Bayern. Pretty good results of late, but I think this one could be another snooze fest on a Sunday. Over 2.5 goals has only happened 45% of the time for Union, 55% of the time for Wolfsburg, so under 2.5 goals. So if that ties into my 1-0 win, 188, it looks pretty good.
All right, well, this is it for the Bundesliga. Correct score 1-0 for 𝗵𝐻𝐿 for this Union Berlin Wolfsburg. Guys, you can win some money with Oddspedia. As you can see on the screen, we have our tipster competitions live. You can see how Daniel is showing you the monthly one starting now in April, so plenty of options to play. The leader is losing actually the last 5 bets, but 14 open tips only, so it's a good option for you to participate. And you have NBA, you have Premier League, And also you have rivals where you can create your own tipster competition. For instance, I'm sure there should be one created about the Bundesliga already. Ronan, let's go with your, there you go, rivals. Basket league, tennis league, well, a little bit of everything. Ronan, your safe bet?
My safe bet will neither be on basketball or tennis. I'm going to go for Bayer Leverkusen to bounce back. So Bayer Leverkusen to win 147.
And the ACCA?
My ACCA is Leverkusen Asian handicap -1 and Mainz Asian handicap -1 for a total of 297.
Well, you had enough analyzing Armenia, for instance, in our Nations League show, also to be aware of what is going on in basketball or tennis or other sports. Well, guys, thank you. Thanks, Ronan. See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.